One of the stops to make, no matter what time of the year, is Indian Lake State Park. Michigan has an incredible state park system, and this is one of my favorites. It is open in the winter, but it's not plowed, so be ready to put it in four-wheel drive if you wish to visit the park. The day was overcast, but wonderfully dramatic. Overlooking Indian Lake, it was peaceful and there was not a sound to be heard, so different from summer when hundreds of voices and the hum of boat motors fills the air. In the winter in the UP, the dress is snowmobile suit, boots, and hat. It doesn't matter if you're going out for dinner or out sledding. Being warm is the primary concern. It was time to snowmobile. Devin is a local celebrity who owns the radio station WTIQ. Devin was gracious enough to supply us with our own personal snowmobiles, so we powered them up and we were on our way to our first stop, Getaways. We would travel through the Indian Lake State Park on the west side of the lake. This is a great place to sled through because it's always void of people. It has a rustic campground and a beautiful view of the lake. From here we would jump back on the trail and head to the Big Springs Inn, located just a few hundred feet before you go into the Palms Brook State Park, the home of the Mirror of Heaven, Big Springs. We had a cup of coffee and said hi to the other sledders and continued on our way. We hope to get back in time to try the walleye dinner that we've heard so much about. Big Springs is many things to many people, but one thing it is to everyone is beautiful. Devin offered to give us a winter tour of Palms Brook State Park, home of this area's most intriguing attractions. Snowmobiles are not allowed in Palms Brook State Park, so we could only ride as far as the parking lot. In fact, Palms Brook is a designated state scenic area, so except for a summer boat launch, no other sport or recreation is allowed. But as you'll see, the trip to this remote area is one everyone should take. We talked with Devin about Schoolcraft County's growing trail system. Now, Devin, you've brought us over to Big Springs, which is one of the local areas for coming down and one of the great attractions here. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it's a natural spring. It doesn't actually freeze over at all. Big tourist stop in the summer. It's a state park. A lot of people don't really even consider it a winter stop, but for years snowmobilers have been coming down here because the raft that is behind us and the water doesn't freeze up. They're able to go out on the raft, snowmobilers, and it's a nice park to enjoy in the winter also.
Now we're going to be leaving out of here. We're going to start heading north. Trail leave right from here and start north? Is that where we're picking
we're actually
up from?
jumping it. This is just a couple hundred feet off the main trail. We're going to catch back up over after stopping at Big Springs Inn. We're going to go in on Trail 7 and we're going to head north from there up 41 and hit Jack Pine up there. A couple other stops on 41 and the actual trail crosses the highway as it's going north and headed through a lot of scenery. And Good. Well, I tell you what, I'd like to get out on the raft maybe before we leave here. You want to go over and do that, and then we'll hit the trail again. All right.
The Native Americans called it the Mirror of Heaven, Getaways, and believed that its waters held mystical powers. How else could the still water not freeze during the legendary Upper Peninsula winters? Indian lore tells the story of a young maiden who dove into the water. She was transformed into a beautiful white deer. Some say you can still see the outline of the white deer on the rocks under the water. Now, of course, legends aside, we know that the Big Spring, as today's locals call it, is a natural mineral spring. In fact, the Big Spring is Michigan's largest, over 200 feet across. During the summer months, this glass-bottom raft is operated by the park with guides to give you a detailed tour around the whole spring basin. Today, we were on our own to man this primitive powered system so we could get a closer look at this ancient attraction that still inspires wonder. Before we left, we met some snowmobilers from Wisconsin who always found time for Big Springs on their trip.
We're from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, just north of Milwaukee.
We're from Belgium, Wisconsin, just north of Port Washington, right north of Milwaukee also.
Okay. Now, is this something you make a trip over here very often?
We've together been doing this for a couple years now, and I've been coming up here for the last 5-6 years.
Okay.
And this is kind of a route that we stop on.
So it's a kind of a regular way you move around the UP. Do you go through the whole UP, or just parts of it?
We stay kind of central between Manistique and Munising, and then we ride, one day we ride up to Grand Marais and back. and then the next day we come down to Manistique and ride back up towards Munising area. So
Okay. How do you usually find the trails?
very good. It's you get some good with some bad.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Down in this area, it's we've always had really good luck down in this area.
Well, hey, we appreciate you taking the time to stop and talk to us, and we'll let you get on your way. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, it was time to move on, and as you can see, conditions were ideal. Hardy amounts of snow tumbled from the skies throughout the morning. The plentiful snowfall meant we not only had great sledding conditions, but we would enjoy a picturesque winter landscape. The overhanging pines were laden with snow, giving the path a tunnel-like effect. With an average of over 165 inches of snowfall, Schoolcraft County is a winter paradise for outdoor enthusiasts, and especially snowmobilers, since there are nearly 400 miles of groomed trails. These trails are part of more than 2,500 miles of well-marked, well-maintained pathways throughout the Upper Peninsula. We followed the winding trails north towards Shingleton, a small town 38 miles from Manistique. Although much of the path is quite narrow, we found some wide open areas that we could stray from the groomed trails and do some hot rodding. Before we reach Shingleton, at the halfway point is a famous watering hole called the Jack Pine. It would be our first stop, and we would spend a little time here warming up, grabbing a bite to eat, and having some hot coffee before continuing on. Jack Pine's Bar and Grill offers a full bar and menu, including family dinners. They are host to many annual events such as the Relic and Poker Snowmobile Runs and Hog Roast. Gas is available for your convenience, and you can still enjoy a game of pool for 50 cents. In case you'd like to stay for more than dinner and drinks, the Jack Pine's 5 furnished rustic cabins are available for rent by day or week. Located in the Hiawatha National Forest, it's not only a great place to stop, it's the only place to stop. Even when you're snowmobiling through the UP, there are still a few rules of the road. In Schoolcraft County, snowmobiling is prohibited on county roads. Nevertheless, you can motor along the plowed shoulder when the unplowed right-of-way is impassable. And remember that snowmobiling is not allowed on state highways. It's also a good idea to maintain trail etiquette when sledding. It makes a safer, more enjoyable trip for everyone. And as usual, it's always good to know your way around, and that's easy with the help of the many trail markers that you'll find here. We continued all the way to Shingleton, where we talked with a few fellow sledders and then made a turn back to Manistique. We wanted to be back before the end of the day, so it was throttle up to the legal limit, and on our way we went. Pine trees dotted the trailside as we cruised into the evening, enjoying this trip until the last possible moment. Our hats are off to the Schoolcraft County Snowmobile Club for all their time and effort in making this trail system world class. There are many motels right on or close to the trail, and you'll find a complete listing of these on our website. All too soon, we were arriving in Manistique and crossing the Manistique River just before we arrived back in town. This is where we would part ways with our guide Devin and thank him for another memorable trip into the winter back roads of the UP. Devin, I'd like to thank you for spending the time with us and taking us around and showing us some of the great trails up here in Manistique. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Come again.
Well, we will. Had a great time, and I am planning on coming back here again, and I suggest everybody do the same thing. And right now, we're on to our next stop. If you'd like more information on snowmobiling in the Manistique area, go to our website at www.greatgetaways.tv. There you'll find links to snowmobile maps of the area and all the stops that we made on our trip and more.